Welcome everybody to this video. Last year I made a video on the Siemens Solid Edge Community Edition, which was a great success on my German channel. And this year I start this Solid Edge series on my English channel, the free CAD Academy. Siemens Solid Edge offers solutions for a different variety of users, designers and engineers, small and medium businesses, startups, students. Solid Edge has a great academic program, educators, and also the hobbyists and makers. So you click on Learn More, then you get to this site. It's called the Solid Edge Community Edition. It offers free professional 3D CAD software for the engineering community. You see that this free download is available for makers, CAD enthusiasts, and is intended for personal use and may not be used for commercial purpose. But let's not talk too much about how to download and where to get it. You can read all these informations in my video description. Let's start with the software. So this is the splash screen of Solid Edge, and as you can see, it's divided in Start and Learn. You find a lot of learning tools, a tour through Solid Edge, learn Solid Edge in a few steps, videos, help and tutorials. So you have everything on your hand to be able to learn Solid Edge. And even in the Start tab, you see some tutorials, and we are going to do one of these tutorials in this video. So the first thing you should do, you should click on New Part, and as you see, you will start in a new file. If you're coming from another CAD software, the first thing you need to know that there are indeed two versions of Solid Edge inside one software. It's the Synchronous mode and the ordered mode. So if we click on Tools, we will see that we have the options to model in the synchronous environment or in the ordered environment. How can I explain this in a few words? So the ordered environment is more that typical kind of modeling you know from other CAD software packages like FreeCAD, like Fusion 360, like Onshape. And the synchronous mode is a little bit more like a direct modeling approach, but it's not called direct modeling, but synchronous. That means that you have tools from direct modeling and tools from ordered mode. Like you have the power of feature-based parametric editing combined with direct editing. And that's why I like this synchronous mode so much, because it offers you so many advantages to traditional ordered modeling, but still having the power of history-based CAD design to some degree. So that's why I will, in this tutorial series, stay in the synchronous mode and show you the great power you have there. As I said, I don't want to talk too much. I want to get into action. So the first thing we do, we want to draw a sketch. The simplest way to start a sketch in the synchronous environment is to click on your Home tab and then select the sketch tools here. If this looks different in your version of Solid Edge, then please make a right click into the ribbon here, right click, go to Themes. Then you can select different themes for your Solid Edge. I use Balance, that's the Solid Edge default. If you have, for example, only the basic steps, in German grundlegende Schritte, then you will have a lot less tools up here and you may not be able to follow my tutorial. So please make sure you select the balanced option. So, okay, first thing we want to do, we want to start with a rectangle. You see the rectangle up here, and if you hover over it, you will get nice tooltips. And if you click the little arrow here on the right side, you will see that there are different types of rectangles. So the first is a center rectangle, the second is a rectangle by 2 points, and that's what we want to do. So we click this tool, rectangle by 2 points. And now we can start sketching, but where do we sketch? You see we have 3 base reference planes which are displayed here. And in order to select one of these, we hover over one of them. So I hover over the front plane here and I press F3, the function 3 key on your keyboard, to lock the plane. And now you see in the right corner here, there is the indication that we locked the plane. That means every sketching operation we are going to use now will be made on this plane. So you will recognize that we are a little bit in the 3D space, turned out of the plane. So it's always very recommended to have a look right normal to your sketching plane, and therefore you can press Control H on your keyboard, Control H. That makes you locked in the view normal to the sketch plane. So, and I click here to start in the sketch's origin point. And then I click maybe here. And I have my first rectangle. Now you see we don't have any dimensions. That's because I did not input them by keyboard. So I press Control Z to undo it. And let's try again. Rectangle by 2 points. First click here and then I pull it a little bit to here. And now you see on the screen that there are boxes with input where currently there is 74 and 44 millimeters. If I now enter a value like 75 on the keyboard, 75, enter, I get the next text box, which is on the right side. I enter 50. And now I can even add an angle, which I don't want, so I have to enter 0, enter. And I get a nice defined rectangle 50 by 75 millimeters. So if that looks a little different in your Solid Edge, don't be confused. Click the Sketching tab up here and go to the IntelliSketch options. That this little light bulb here with the pen next to it. You select it and now you can see what I have selected here. I have checked automatically create dimensions for a new geometry, not when the geometry is drawn. That was what you saw in the first example, but when the geometry is created with keyed in values. In the second example, I keyed in the 50 and the 75 millimeters, and then we created these dimensions automatically. So very important, that's my auto dimensions. And under the IntelliSketch options, you will find the relationship colors. That means if a sketch is fully defined, it will change its color. If I uncheck this one, you will see that the rectangle turns blue again. And if it's checked, it turns black. That means whenever I have a sketch fully defined, it will change from blue to black. So these are the first and most important things you should make sure in your sketch. So the next thing we want to do is we want to extrude this. In comparison to other CAD softwares you might know, you don't need to click on Leave Sketch if you are in the synchronous mode. So you simply can just use your cursor or your 3D mouse. I have a 3D connection, 3D mouse, which I use all the time in Solid Edge because it's very handy to use on a CAD product like this. And all you need to do is now just click this region here. Left click, and you will see it turns green. We got these two handles here. And now let's try and click this handle. And as you see, you can extrude in both directions. If you press the Shift key just once, I just press once the Shift key on the keyboard, Shift, you now see that the extrusion is symmetrically. Okay, and you can toggle this symmetric extrusion simply by clicking Shift. So what do we want to do? We want an extrusion to be symmetrically 20 millimeters. So we click Shift. And now we don't need to pull it exactly to hit the 20, which will be quite challenging. We simply enter it by keyboard, 20, enter, and finished. Now we have a solid block, 75, 50, 20 millimeters. Great. The next thing you need to know, if you are in the synchronous mode, which we will be for the rest of the tutorial, we do not change underlying sketches to change the 3D geometry. You now see that here in the Pathfinder, our sketch is now under the used sketches. Here is the sketch, and if we change the sketch, this will not have any effect on our 3D body. So we don't need to change the sketch. but instead work with these PMI dimensions here you find. So whenever you want to change something on your geometry, just select one of these PMIs. Next thing is to set the driving end of the dimension, because if I now change the dimension, it will change symmetrically. Let's try it out. I scale with the mouse wheel and you see it will change in both directions. This is not what I want to do. So I set the driving end to one of the ends of the geometry, and now you see that only one end is changing. So keep that in mind. Control Z to undo it. So that's how you change your geometry. You don't change it by making changes to the underlying sketch. Okay, next thing we need to do. We need to make a cut in here. And how do we do it? We simply sketch on this surface. So we select the line tool. We hover over this surface, and as you see, there is a small indication of F3 to lock to this plane, F3. Control H, and now we're normal on that plane. We simply catch this little upper edge here, pull down the line, pull it to the right, and pull it up. So, okay, right click, and we quit the command. Yeah, and now the next thing we can do is simply give more dimensions. We did not create those dimensions when we created geometry, so we now have to do it by the smart dimensions. Here is smart dimensions. I select it. I select this line, one click and enter 24 millimeters. I select this line here, click 36 millimeters, enter. Yeah, and now I need to know the position. That's simple. I just click this edge and the edge of my part and enter 20 millimeters here. And as you see, the sketch turns black, means we now have a fully defined geometry. Very nice. Okay, let's quit the sketch. As you know, you don't need to press something special for it. Just go out of it and select this region. We want to remove it from the geometry. We pull this trigger, and as you see, it gets automatically removed. The next thing we want to add is a cylindrical shape on this plane. So we select the circle by point, hover over this surface, F3. Now we catch the center point of the line here and simply create a nice circle. I enter 24 with the keyboard. Yeah, and I can now quit, having created this nice circle. And now I want to extrude this circle. As you see, when I hover over it with the mouse, you will see it is divided into two regions. We need both of the regions to be extruded. So let's just select both with the Shift key, click this arrow, and now you see it gets removed from the geometry. Oh no, that's not what I want in this case. So I press the space bar to add it to the geometry. And I don't want it to be added symmetrically, but only in the right direction. So I told you, you press the Shift key and then you toggle to extrude to the right. 36 millimeters, enter, and we are good so far. The next things we want to do is we want to add some fillets to our geometry. So we select the round command here, rounds, to select edges, and now we select the edges that we want it to be rounded. It's this edge, this edge, this edge down here, and this edge here. And it's currently set to 5 millimeters, so I can use the mouse wheel to change the size, or I simply enter 10 with the keyboard. And now all those corners will be filleted to 10 millimeters. So looks pretty good. And now two more fillets. So the round command is still active. So I can select these two fillets here, select 5. Yeah, and looks pretty decent so far. Don't get too confused by all these PMIs floating around here. If you find them disturbing, simply click in the Pathfinder on the eye left to the PMI and you see they are gone. Just depends on your preference. I sometimes find them a little bit annoying, but most of the time I like them because I can make easy changes to the geometry using those. So the next thing we want to do, we want to add some holes into this surface here. Therefore, we select the hole tool. We need to select on which plane we want the hole to be placed. So we hover over this surface here and press the F3 key to lock onto this plane. Then we go to the hole options. We select the simple hole, millimeter as a standard, hole extents. We select the last one, the finite extent, and we enter 2 millimeters as our hole depth. And then we enter 18.6 millimeters for the diameter. Click on OK, and then we place it here right on the center point. OK. Right click and the hole has been created. So use the hole command again. We are still locked onto this plane, which is correct, but this time we want a different hole. So we click on the hole options. We select the counterbore. We select through next. Then we enter no standard. We go with the millimeter again, and we select the upper diameter of 16 millimeters. Then we enter the counterbore depth here of 18 millimeters and the diameter for the rest, 7 millimeters. Okay. Yeah, and then we simply select the center point here, click, right click, and we are finished with the tool. The last thing you might be interested to know, how do I change my geometry? And as I told you in the first place, the great thing about Solid Edge's Synchronous technology, it combines direct modeling features with a history-based modeling. So while we can use direct modeling features like selecting this fillet here and just pull it up or down with the handle, which is absolutely no problem. We can enter values here with the keyboard if you want to. We can select this fillet or change the radius of the fillet here with no problems to change the whole tool. We can just, let's say we take this face, pull it left or right to change the part. So we all have these great opportunities to change the geometry in a more like direct modeling approach, but we still have the option to select these features in the Pathfinder and change them. So for example, let's show the PMI. I still can define the distance between these two faces here parametrically. So I simply have to select the 36 here, set my driving end. I want the driving end to be here. So I select the left arrow here. Now you see this little red ball, which means that this face will not change when I change the value here. Only the left will change, and this goes all up to the face being completely removed, which is closely not what I want. But as you see, let's enter 40 for example here, and we have a slightly changed part here. We can change the width of the part. This time we will leave it to symmetrically and enter 16. We get a slightly altered part here. And the holes, let's change the second hole. So it's called hole 4 here. Double click it. Now you get a real parametric list how to change it. So diameter, let's set it to 5. And let's change the counterbore diameter to 14. And the depth here to 12. Enter. So you have parametric capabilities here. You have kind of a history tree here in the feature list, and still you are able to just use direct modeling capabilities like pulling up or down, changing fillets here, or even deleting fillets completely. This fillet here is wrong, just select it, delete key on the keyboard, and the fillet is gone completely. So yeah, you have all the power at hand. Absolutely recommend you checking out Solid Edge. Give it a try. It has not the easiest learning curve of all CAD programs, but if you get proficient with it, you will absolutely love it. It's a very, very strong CAD tool. I recommend you checking it out. Find the download link in the video description and see you next time. Have fun with Solid Edge. Goodbye until next time.